All right, let's jump right in. We're about to unpack a text that's about 2,500 years old from the Buddhist tradition. So what makes this one so special? Well, it kicks off with one of the boldest, most confident claims you'll ever find in any spiritual writing, a claim about a guaranteed path to real, true inner freedom. Right out of the gate, you get this statement from the Buddha, which is famously called his lion's roar. And you can see why. It's not a suggestion, it's a full-throated, unwavering declaration. He's basically saying, look, this is the path that actually works, and all the others are missing something essential. I mean, it's provocative, it's incredibly confident, and it just makes you ask, why? Why make such a confident claim? That's the big question we're digging into today. Is this just arrogance, or is there a solid, logical argument behind that boldness? The thing is, the text doesn't just drop this claim and walk away. It actually lays out the entire proof, step by step. And that's what we're going to follow. So to justify this lion's roar, the text uses this really fascinating back and forth dialogue. It's smart because it anticipates exactly what someone from another spiritual path, they're called wanderers here, would say in response. It sets up this kind of philosophical showdown to figure out what really truly makes a spiritual path work. And this is where it gets really interesting. The Buddhist followers say their confidence is based on four things: their teacher, the teaching itself, their code of conduct, and their community. But the wanderers immediately come back with, wait a minute, we have those exact same things. We've got a teacher, a teaching, rules, a community. So what on earth makes you so special? It's a fantastic setup because it forces you to see that on the surface, a lot of these paths can look almost identical. This is where the whole conversation shifts. Since the basic structures look the same, the dialogue pivots to the goal. What's the point of all this? So the Buddhist side starts asking a series of really pointed questions to see if everyone is even trying to get to the same place. The first question is pretty straightforward. Is the whole point of the spiritual journey to end up greedy or to be free from greed? Well, the wanderers have to agree, right? The goal is to be free of greed. Okay, check. We're on the same page. And the questions keep coming, building this rhythm. What about hate? Is the goal for someone who's full of hate or someone who's free from it? Again, it's a no-brainer. The goal is to be free of hate. Everyone agrees. Now it gets a little more subtle. Is the goal for people who are always craving things or for those who are completely rid of craving? Once again, the wanderers agree, yeah, the goal is to be rid of craving. We're getting really close to the heart of the matter now. And that leads to the final and most important question of all. Is the ultimate goal for those who still have the fuel for grasping or for those who don't? They agree. It's for those who don't. And that one word, grasping, that's the key that unlocks the entire argument. So everything hinges on this concept of grasping. The text is making a radical claim here. The entire difference between a path that sets you free and one that doesn't all comes down to how completely you understand this single idea. And what is this big secret? Well, it's not 1,000 complicated philosophies. The text says it's just four things, four specific ways that we grasp onto reality that cause all of our inner turmoil. If you can understand all four of these, really understand them, you've understood the whole puzzle. So here they are, the four types. First, grasping at sensual pleasures. That's the obvious one, chasing things that feel good. Second, grasping at views. This is being totally attached to your opinions, believing your way of seeing things is the only right way. Third, grasping at precepts and observances, clinging to rituals and rules, thinking the rules themselves will save you. And the fourth one, this is the most subtle, is grasping at theories of a self, clinging to the very idea that there's a permanent, solid, separate you in there somewhere. And this right here is the core of the lion's roar. The claim is that other spiritual paths, no matter how well-meaning, are ultimately incomplete. They might teach about one or two, maybe even three of these types of grasping, but they don't diagnose and treat all four. Let's just picture this for a second. Imagine a teaching that correctly tells you, hey, let go of chasing sensual pleasure. That's a great start, right? You've got 25% of the problem figured out. But if it doesn't address how you cling to your opinions, your rituals, or your sense of self, then 75% of the problem is still there, running in the background. Okay, so what about a more advanced teaching? Maybe this one helps you let go of pleasure and helps you not be so rigid in your views. Now you're at 50%, you're halfway there, but you could still be totally attached to your spiritual practices and most deeply to your idea of who you are. You're still not truly free. Some teachings get so close. They see the traps of pleasure, views, and even the trap of just blindly following rules. That's a 75% understanding. But according to this text, they still miss that final deepest level of grasping, the attachment to a fixed idea of a self. And as long as that one piece is missing, the whole project of liberation can't be completed. So you see, the confidence of that lion's roar isn't just empty bragging. It's based on this claim of being complete. The argument is that only a fully awakened teacher, someone who has seen through all 4 types of grasping for themselves, can lay out a path that actually works, one that is truly emancipating. The confidence isn't in the system, it's in the comprehensiveness of the diagnosis. Okay, so we know what grasping is, but the text doesn't stop there. It goes even deeper. It asks, where does this grasping even come from in the first place? What's the root cause of this whole messy business? Let's trace it back. The text lays out this chain of cause and effect. Our grasping comes from craving, and craving comes from feeling. You know, that constant stream of pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral sensations. Feeling comes from contact, our senses touching the world. Contact needs what the text calls name and form, which is basically our mind and body. But what's the source of that entire chain reaction? It all points back to one single source: ignorance. Not seeing reality as it is. That's the root that nourishes the entire tree of our suffering. So this finally gets us to the solution. If the whole problem starts with ignorance and ends in grasping, then the way out must be to reverse that entire process. How do you actually break the chain? The text makes it incredibly simple. It boils down to this one fundamental choice. When you're operating from ignorance, when you don't clearly see these 4 types of grasping and where they come from, the result is automatic. You grasp. But when you replace that ignorance with knowledge, with clear seeing, you just don't grasp. The impulse is gone. And what happens when you stop grasping? The text says you are not anxious. That constant background noise of worry, of wanting this and fearing that, it just fades out. And without that fuel of anxiety, you, personally, become extinguished. Now, that sounds dramatic, but it doesn't mean you disappear. It means the fires of greed, hatred, and delusion are put out. What's left is a state of incredible peace, what's called nirvana. And that leads to the text's final, incredibly powerful statement of freedom. This is what it sounds like when someone has walked the path all the way to the end. It just radiates the sense of ultimate peace and completion, the feeling that the work is finally, truly finished. So we can end by bringing this 2,500-year-old idea right here into our own lives. It's one thing to talk about grasping in an abstract way, but the real work is to ask ourselves personally, what am I grasping onto? And not just the obvious stuff, not just pleasures. What views, what rules, what ideas about who I am I clinging to? According to this ancient lion's roar, asking that question honestly is the first real step toward finding freedom.